Hey everybody, this is Jim at SB500chart.com. It's about 4:20 on September 24th, 2013, and we're going to look at this chart and try to make a little sense out of it. Before we do, I want to remind you that the website and the video are for educational purposes only, and nothing stated at the side or in the video is intended to be used as investment advice. I can draw lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research and make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. I'm not a licensed financial professional. I'm just a guy who draws lines on charts. So, what happened today? Well, looking at a 30-minute chart, we have so far, I would call this a bounce. We've really had 1, 2, 3 bounces on this extended neckline. And you know, that's looking fairly interesting. As we pull out to a 1-hour chart, you can see this this line extend out. Again, this was another one of those patterns where, to be honest with you, the right shoulder was a little strange, very, very short. So, but we're extending this because I think that was a pretty clear line of support that gave way. And now, is it going to act as support or is it going to give way again? Well, let's take a look. I think if we look at a 10-minute chart, again we can see this extended line, and I bet you're looking at this and you're saying to yourself, I know exactly where this is going. And I hope so, but I'm gonna put forth what this looks like, but then I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench. Yep, this looks like it could be the makings of a small head and shoulders top. Now, it's a little different looking because as we look at this, for example, I would probably say let's keep this neckline right here, but to be honest with you, when you look at a head and shoulders pattern, you usually draw your neckline where the head is. So it's a little bit of an odd thing, and it gives this pattern a little bit of wiggle room underneath this line, because I don't know whether I would say the head started to form here, because you've got this almost this little second shoulder, then the big thing, then you got 2 shoulders over here. So it's just kind of interesting. So I'm going to keep this line in place because, if for no other reason, this shows the last 3 dips. So this could be kind of a dual purpose neckline for this pattern, as well as the one that defined this neckline, or this could be an alternate interpretation. Now, if this is a head and shoulders top, then we would be looking at, and I'm going to just measure the average between these 2 lines, and I'm going to say if it breaks down, we would have a target, and it hasn't broken down yet. It could happen tomorrow. We would have a target of about 1665, which would take us about down to our teal line again. Now, if that were to happen, let's back out just a little bit, then we would be looking at a situation, maybe a 2-hour chart. We would be looking at a situation then, and this line moves around a little bit on that 2-hour chart. So just the teal line is in a better position than this when we zoom in, just like these lines move around too. But make a long story short, if we come down to that teal line, that should be watched very carefully, because we've had a series of 3 tops that have been less and less aggressive, even though this last one made a little bit more headway to the upside. If this teal line were to break here, then I would think we would probably come down to at least either this red line right here at 1600, which is still our all-time tops line drawn across the 2000 and 2007 tops, or this blue line, which I think is even more critical because that is our major bottoms in the markets since our bottom in March of 2009. Now there's one more trend line that is a little different than that, but this one we've got 1, 2, 3 very well defined tags on this line. If this were to break, then I would say start looking for signs potentially of a more major top in formation. Hasn't happened yet, but if it does happen, I think that would be probably the time to start really eyeing the chart for something of a more serious nature taking place. I said I was going to throw you a little monkey wrench, and I'm going to do that right now. I mentioned in yesterday's video that sometimes you have these fairly skinny little channels that actually serve the purpose of setting up the first upward move in a channel that is larger and not as aggressive. So I'm just going to show you what I mean by that, and I'm going to use some actual data points on our chart. Let's start with this top back here, and now that it's looking pretty apparent that this is a technically significant top up here around 1720. Where did we get to? 1728, 1730. What I mean is, what if this takes us to this line and then we come back down to a parallel position, something like right here? That is a possibility. So right now I don't think I'm going to keep these trend lines on the chart because we don't have enough information to know this is what's going on, but we've seen this happen before where you think, uh-oh, the wheels are getting ready to come off, and you do, you break that channel, but then you come down just a little bit and then you get a surprise rally and you find out later, oh, well, this was just the channel inside the channel. Okay? So, and like I said, I think if you think back to some of our more to some of the channels we've rising channels we've seen in the past, we've seen this happen where we start to follow this narrow little thing, then all of a sudden it breaks down, and then we come back later and say, oh, so this was what was happening. So but for right now, let's keep this top one here. But I'm not going to muddy things up by saying that this is what's happening. If it were going to happen that way, then this would end up not being a head and shoulders top, but maybe we just go sideways for a couple days, take out the orange line here, then rally back up. So, and again, just to remind you, you see these things that look like patterns, they're not until they break out. So this has not broken down in a serious way. It may do so tomorrow. If it does, then we've got a head and shoulders top. But right now, we could rally, and this thing could get saved. And if it does, we could head on up and back test this line up potentially up around 1760 or so. So there's a wide range of possibilities that could happen right now, and I don't want to turn a blind eye to those just because we broke this narrow little channel. I mentioned that sometimes we get these channels and then they break, and we find out that what's happening is we're just really getting one of our first significant reactive moves in what is a larger structure. A good time to look for that would be really starting with November 2012. You can see where we start up with this pretty aggressive thing here, and it breaks, but it only comes down a little bit, and then we come back up and we get aggressive again, and you think, oh no, the wheels are coming off, but then it breaks, and then we get aggressive again, and you find out that what we really did was we had a much larger structure that lasted for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then this larger structure broke, and guess what? Not the end of the world, because then we found out we were in potentially an even larger channel or a larger structure where this became our support line. So do you see what I'm saying? You end up with sometimes a nest of different things that kind of work like channels, and it's just really interesting. I guess it's one of the good things and one of the bad things about being able to get our hands on so much data so quickly, is that we can study these things and really take them apart on so many different levels. So guys, that's your video for trading ending on September 24th, 2013. Again, potential head and shoulders top here, but it's only potential. It's not a head and shoulders top until we break either this line or this line by a significant margin, and sadly by the time we do that, you know the story. we've already used up at least a half of that target just by a technically significant confirmed breakdown of these lines. So hey guys, that's your video. Appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch it. Thank you for your support.